and thank you so much for joining us again this month for our Club Cast. I'm your host, Marissa Gleockler, and this month I am joined by Shrita Walker from Mid-Florida Credit Union. She's also one of our Boys and Girls Club's board members, and she's been heavily involved in a lot of our programs, and she's traveled with us to different conferences, and we're going to dive into all of that today. So first, before we get into the nitty-gritty, I'd love to know just about you and what you do at Mid-Florida and, you know, how you got involved with Boys and Girls Clubs.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and have this conversation with you. So I am a VP Commercial Loan Officer with Mid-Florida Credit Union. I'll be there actually this year. I'm going into my 10th year.
Oh, congrats.
So yes, very
big
exciting.
Milestone.
Thank you. But Mid-Florida, we're a community-based credit union, full service. So we take care of all of our members' needs, from personal to business to commercial, and that's what we do.
And so how did you initially get involved with Boys and Girls Clubs? Was it through Mid-Florida or was it on your own?
So actually, I would probably say it was through Mid-Florida. If I think back to maybe the first event that I attended, it was back in 2018.
Okay.
And it was the Steak and Steak at the event center. I don't think it was the Mid-Florida Event Center at the time, but that would be my first recollection of actually getting involved and going to an event. Mid-Florida did a sponsorship there as well. So yeah, it was a great event.
How did that experience kind of open your eyes to the programs? Had you known about Boys and Girls Clubs before that?
So I did. I mean, who doesn't know about Boys and Girls Club, St. Lucie County? So I did know about the program and the organization. But again, being community oriented with the credit union, we wanted to make sure that we got involved in different aspects of our community. So that was one of the things that I ended up seeing, you know, at the time. And I said, hey, it sounds like a good event. You know, let's go to the event. So that's kind of what happened.
Have you always kind of been interested in youth development, or is that something that you found through Boys and Girls Clubs?
So through Boys and Girls Club, you know, actually, I guess, volunteering and getting involved and doing things. So I was a judge for Youth of the Year. So that's how I was introduced to Youth of the Year. And it was such an experience, very heartwarming, very moving, just to hear those teens' stories.
Yeah.
It was very difficult to have to choose one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard task. I don't envy the judges ever. What year were you a judge?
So it was 2019,
okay.
Along with my co-chair of the Youth of the Year, Cecilia Jaimes. And then I want to say that year, Taylor Hoskins also was a judge as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was us three, and then there was more judges, obviously.
Very nice. Okay, so that, I do feel like Youth of the Year is a very common thread for people to get involved, because it's such a good way to see, you know, what we do at the clubs and kind of see the outcomes of the programs. So I too was introduced to Boys and Girls Clubs through Youth of the Year. Okay. So I can definitely relate, and it's just such an emotional event. Yeah. You know, you don't expect that sometimes going into it, and then you leave there and you're like, I need a whole box of tissues.
Right. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
It just made me think, like, okay, what was I doing with my life at that time?
Yeah. And I think too, it just, it shows, because I think everybody has a similar reaction. Everybody kind of takes it in and they're like, okay, you know, Mia, for example, our past two, our back-to-back champion, she had her AA, like before she graduated high school, and she's off going, you know, going for NASA internships and things like that. And I was like, my God, I don't even think I knew what path to follow at that point. And so I think it teaches people that Boys and Girls Clubs not only provides us programs, but also opens your eyes to new paths.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's really part of not only the leadership and character development component, but also the workforce readiness component. How do you feel like the community getting involved in these programs has that impact? How do you think that impacts the teens now?
So I think you hit on it when you said it really opens people's eyes, because being in the business, world, we go to work, we spend a lot of time at work, and we really have to balance not only our time at work, our family time, but also giving back to our community and being involved in those types of things. You can really see what Boys and Girls Club does for the teens.
Right.
So many different aspects of it that I never knew about. Like, I thought I knew some things about Boys and Girls Club because, like I said, I went to some events, did Youth of the Year. Even my own children attended summer camp at the Mid-Florida Event Center.
Yep.
My oldest daughter even worked there, during that time as a program specialist, I believe. So I thought I knew about Boys and Girls Club, but when I joined the board last year, I really learned a lot about Boys and Girls Club. And I would say they even prepare you too. You talk about development. They want you to be a good board member and be involved and understand the ins and outs of the club and the different programs and, what your work does. Yeah. When you put in your time, your energy, your effort, your talents, your tints or, whatever you're contributing, you see where it goes.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what we're always striving to show people is that impact. I think that goes back to why Youth of the Year is so important because you can see that impact. It's sometimes hard to show, okay, this kid has been with us since they were 6 years old and now they're graduating high school with honors and going off to college and doing all these great things. And sometimes it's hard to show that impact because it's so personal and, it's obviously over a large span of time. And so I do think anytime that we have events like Youth of the Year, opportunities to show the public the outcomes of what we're doing in our clubs, it's really special and it gets people on board. Yes, and this particular event is a community event, right? Everyone is welcome, everyone is invited to come. All you have to do is RSVP and say, hey, I'm gonna be there, so that way, we can prepare for you. And even if you don't, we'll still let you in. That's right. Yeah. Still come. Yes, that's right. Absolutely. And we'll get into some of the details of the actual event in a little bit. I did want to go back and ask you how you originally got involved with the board. I know you said back in 2018, 2019, you got involved with the organization, but how did you become a board member? So I think since I was exposed to Youth of the Year, I had the desire to join. But other, board commitments, things of that nature, I wasn't able to at the time, even though I still stayed very involved and close to what was happening and what was going on. So I guess the time was right and it presented itself. And I did go through that rigorous process. Yes. It is a rigorous process. Yes. To get on the board. But it's a working board. Yes. I mean, Will and his staff, they have us working. Yeah. But it's great. Yes, and we see it too on the staff side. We definitely see the work that you guys put in, and it makes all the difference because we have such a diverse board in terms of industries that they're coming from and background, and so they really each individual brings such a unique perspective and a unique set of skills and knowledge that we apply in our work every day. So it's really cool to see how, whatever goes on in those board meetings trickles down all the way to the kids. Yeah. So that's really important. And then I know because we got to travel together to one of the conferences that you've gotten to attend a couple different workshops and trainings and conferences with us. What have you learned about the movement nationwide? Oh my goodness, that was so inspiring. And I'm, again, just absolutely grateful that I was able to get the opportunity to travel with you and some of the other board members and the team to the regional conference. And what a movement it is. Yes. Being able to collaborate with other board members, from other states
and other Boys and Girls Club staff from other states and just listen to what they're doing, you know, the different types of challenges that they're also having, you know, collaborate together and just really think about, okay, what can we do to make it better? What can we do to help these kids?
Yeah.
And during our time there, a lot of it was centered around board engagement. Even our board did a presentation, you know, on the panel, so that was great. And it was just a wonderful experience. I mean, I can't even put it all into words.
I think a lot of times, even for staff that go to these conferences, maybe it's their first time, maybe it's not, it's such a reminder of the scope at which we're operating nationally, even internationally. We have military-based clubs as well.
Yes.
And, you know, you don't really think about that because we're so focused on St. Lucie County.
Yes.
So, of course, we just see Fort Pierce and Port St. Lucie, but really nationwide, we're doing different things, but with the same goals in mind and with the same mission.
Yes, yes. And we got to highlight, you know, the teens.
Yes.
Even one of our teens, Grace, was there playing her violin.
Yep.
I mean,
And she'll be doing that at nationals too.
Yes, I was in awe.
Yeah. And we won an award at that for our mobile club.
Yes.
Yes. So I don't know how involved with mobile club or, you know, how much you know about that, but what a cool program to say, okay, you know, it's not possible for us to have clubs in every single neighborhood and in every single location, but we're going to go out of our way to bring the programs to the kids so that everybody can have access. You know, I think access is one of the key components, obviously, of being able to operate and to reach these kids and teens. And so, you know, getting over that barrier and obviously focusing on the safety component and the programming as well, I think all of that combined sets us apart.
Oh, absolutely.
And how do you think Boys and Girls Clubs and youth development programs like Boys and Girls Clubs affect the community at large?
So it helps prepare our teens, I believe. You know, you talk about workforce readiness and things of that nature. It helps prepare them for the workforce. It helps prepare them with those social skills, like you said, and those development skills, things that they really need in order to be a productive citizen in society.
And you kind of hit on it a little bit, and we talked about it before today, but you mentioned social emotional learning and how that plays such a critical role in children and teens and in their futures. Talk to me a little bit about that and why that's important.
So just that whole emotional intelligence piece, right? Being self-aware of what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. Okay, what do I need to do to improve? You know, being able to self-regulate, right? Because the type of world that we live in, you know, we're gonna go through challenges. You know, our teens, our kids are gonna go through challenges, but how do they work through them, right? They get pushed down, you know, how do they get back up, you know, and be better, you know, than ever? Motivation. Man, sometimes you have those days where you just don't feel like it.
Yep. But we all know the feeling.
We do know the feeling sometimes, but you have to motivate yourself. You have to get back up. You've got to keep going. You know, you've got to do it. You know, that positive self-talk. You know, those types of things. Empathy. You know, all of those, I think, are important for our kids and our teens to learn and develop, so that way when they go out into the workforce, that they are good employees.
And so on that note, you know, being at Mid-Florida and being an employer in St. Lucie County, how do you see that those like soft skills transfer into hard skills that they can one day put on a resume and, you know, come to you in an interview and say, I can do X, Y, and Z? You know, how do you see that transferring?
So that's a very good question.
It's sometimes hard to measure, you know, soft skills are, you can see it, you know what it is when you see it, but it's hard to measure, it's hard to put on paper. But obviously they do transfer in your day-to-day work and work ethic and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, your attitude, right, and your grit. I mean, if you have those types of things, then, you know, as an employer, then we know, okay, if we're gonna give you a task, you know, or something to do, we know that, okay, this person is going to put their all in, they're gonna do their best, you know, they're not gonna give up. If they have a question about something, they're not gonna be afraid, you know, to ask, you know, things like that. So then you get that experience because you're getting more opportunities to do certain things, you know, whatever it is.
Right. And as teens are preparing today to pick their path for their future and preparing for future job interviews and, you know, going into those professional settings that they're probably not very used to, what's something that you would tell them to do today to help prepare them?
I would say relax. You know, have an open mind, right? Be open to feedback. You know, have a mentor, someone that can kind of help, you know, guide you, or that you can bounce things off of or ideas off of, or, you know, even practice with. And just be prepared. I think when you research and, you know, gain that knowledge and you are prepared, that you feel more comfortable when you go into a certain situation.
Well, I'm so glad that you said mentor, because that is such a huge component of what we do at Boys and Girls Clubs. And that's very important to us, to make sure that every kid and teen in our clubs have a staff member that they can look up to and go to for whether it be help with their homework or help in life, you know, that they have that mentor piece in the clubs. Add the safety component, add the programs, add the physical club space, and there you have it. It's a whole holistic approach. And I think that goes even more back to Youth of the Year, which I definitely want to talk about, because like you said, you and Cecilia are co-chairing this event.
Yes.
And a big part of the Youth of the Year program is mentorship as well, because they have to do so many rigorous things, much like becoming a board member. They have to do so many rigorous things to become a Youth of the Year candidate. Talk to me a little bit about that and what all these teens are doing to put their best foot forward.
So shout out to Cecilia and our whole Youth of the Year committee. They've been working very hard behind the scenes, but there's so many things that the youth are doing to get prepared. So you talked a little bit about mentors. So they have mentors and coaches that they meet with, you know, preparing for their speech and their interview. I mean, they're staying busy.
Yeah, and even just the application process, like I'm pretty sure they have to write their resume.
Oh, yeah.
Which for quite a few of them, it's probably the first time they've ever been introduced to a resume or what that looks like. When I was 14, 15, 16, I worked at American Eagle, so we didn't need a resume. So, you know, it's crazy. I kind of think, what are these kids even putting on their resume? But then you get them and you're like, oh my gosh, they're so involved. I know at least one of our Youth of the Year candidates, Deanna, she's involved in the Fort Pierce City Leadership Council, you know, just crazy things that you're like, wow, you're gonna make big changes in our world one day.
I know, this is our future. And, you know, when you talk about that resume piece too, you know, when they're getting their first job and they have that resume showing, you know, their leadership skills, the different things that they were involved in, that they may have volunteered in, things like that, because they don't necessarily have that work experience yet.
Right.
Like you said, that goes a long way. So being prepared for that and going through that resume writing, yeah, it's a good exercise.
And I know they also have to write a few essays, I believe mostly just on their club experience and telling their story. But another big component that kind of ties into the essays and the preparation, as well as their speech and things that they have to do later on, is that advocacy component. They each kind of have a platform that's specific to them. So talk to me a little bit about that, why that's important, and how that plays a role.
So yes, speaking of advocacy, different youths obviously have different advocacy goals, and one of the ones that really stuck out to me was Broderick. His advocacy is on gun violence and promoting safety. So, excuse me, obviously that's important, you know, for the community. You know, things that he may have, you know, experienced or seen or whatever the case may be, it's been brought to his attention, and he feels like, hey, this is something important that I need to address. So them really being able to hone in on that and, you know, have a voice and contribute.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so very important. Even going to Tallahassee, right, and advocating, you know, whether it's on behalf of their platform or behalf on the Boys and Girls Club. I mean, that's such a great experience.
Right.
Like, I haven't even gone to Tallahassee yet.
Right. And it just, it adds that extra component and that extra, like, oomph for the community, because now people, adults who are out in our world making decisions and making decisions on issues that affect teens, they're getting to hear firsthand from our local teens what issues are affecting them. I think sometimes we have assumptions because we have our own experiences as teens, you know, back when we were teenagers, but it's so different and individual to each person. And so that's a huge component. I know in previous years, they've taken that platform and really gone places with it.
Yes, yes.
I hope to see Broderick and all of the other 5 candidates this year, instead of just 4 total, take that platform and really run with it and show their hearts on the 23rd.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm glad you said that 16 this time.
Yep.
Because we did add the high schools, which is 2 of the high schools.
Yep.
Which is very exciting.
How do you think that will shape the competition portion of this?
Well, I think you hit on it earlier. I'm kind of glad I'm not a judge this year.
Yes. Yeah.
It is going to definitely be, you know, a hard decision, a challenging decision, because all of the candidates are great. They have great platforms. They have great aspirations. You know, they have a lot to say. They have those leadership qualities and skills that we're instilling in them, and they want to be here.
Right.
You know, when you talk about teens and the Boys and Girls Club, like, you know, when you're younger, you go because, you know, your parents take you or whatever the case may be, right? Which is still very important.
Yes.
But the teens making a decision to be there and be involved, and not necessarily, you know, in other behaviors outside of school that they should be involved in.
Right.
I mean, it really warms my heart to see that, and I'm excited that the Boys and Girls Club of St. Lucie County is really expanding on that program.
And once this program doesn't really conclude, it's technically a year-round program. The kids and teens are working on it. We have Junior Youth of the Year even that starts them at a younger age. But once the competition piece is over, the 6 candidates get to embark on a pretty unique opportunity in that they get to go to Guatemala. Yes. This is the 2nd year that we're doing this, and we've talked about it a couple times on the show before, but because this year is a new year and there's 6 instead of 4 and there's these different components, talk to me a little bit about that and how a trip like that can make such an impact.
Oh my goodness, Guatemala. So I think they're going over spring break. So it's going to be a great opportunity for all the finalists and their families and staff. I believe last year, the Service Project, they built stoves for the community there. And to be able to give back like that, I mean, I'm excited for them to have that opportunity. And I think this year also they were able to communicate, I think via Zoom, with some of the kids there in Guatemala too. So, I mean, it could be a trip of a lifetime too for some of the people that may have not been outside of the United States. And, you know, getting those experiences. Just, again, Boys and Girls Club of St. Lucie County, just doing great things for our community and our kids.
Well, and it's a great opportunity for us too, because we get to partner with other nonprofits in Guatemala, which is really cool for us to see and the teens to see.
Yeah.
Just to gain appreciation for Boys and Girls Clubs and their nonprofit, and kind of swap notes and kind of talk to each other about how we can improve the world, really, at that point.
That's
you know?
right.
And, you know, it's just one of those life-enriching opportunities that adds to the whole program. You know, this is not something we did before last year, so it adds just such an enriching component.
I know, it does. And I wasn't a club kid per se myself, or we didn't call it that where I went, but I'm an Army brat. So I was involved in a program, and it was at the DYA, the Daily Youth Activity Center, which I will not forget the experience that I had and the times there, again, as a teen, you know, choosing to be there and be exposed, you know, to these types of things. And yeah, I don't remember going to Guatemala.
Yeah, it's not every day that you get to go to Guatemala with your family and staff and mentors and friends.
Right.
And get to give back.
Yes, absolutely.
So if someone wants to attend the event, give them all the details: date, time, location.
So the event is on February 23rd. At the Treasure Coast Lexus. So thank you again to the Woods family for allowing us to utilize their facility for this community event. So I just tell everybody, come on out. Like you said, even if you don't RSVP, just come.
That's right.
You know, we want to show up and show out for our teens there and give them that support, and the community, we need that support.
And they will not regret it. We will have tissues on the tables this year.
There will be
plan.
There will be tears.
Yes. Yeah, just because it's so moving. It's happy tears. Happy tears.
Happy tears. Yes.
I'm excited, and I appreciate all that you do as a board member, and of course chairing this event. I know it's going to be amazing as always. I am very curious and interested to see how the 6 candidates go, because every year I struggle with just having 4, trying to, you know, decipher who should be the St. Lucie County representative. But
I know
we've had 2 back-to-back state reps come from St. Lucie County, so I know the stakes are high, and you know, we're coming off 2 really strong years, so I'm excited for these 16s.
Yes, I am too, and the program is growing, obviously, right?
Yep.
We had 4, now we're at 6.
Yep. And this year our juniors are taking part.
Oh yes, juniors are taking part. So yeah, who knows what the future holds.
Awesome. Well, if you want to get involved with Youth of the Year or any of our other initiatives, like Shrita said, the Youth of the Year celebration is taking place on Friday, February 23rd at Treasure Coast Lexus, I believe at 6 p.m. But we encourage everybody to come on out, see what these kids have to say, hear their hearts, hear their stories. You will not regret it. If you want any additional information on Boys and Girls Clubs, our locations, enrollment, or any of our life enriching programs, I encourage you to go to our website, which is www.bgcofslc.org. We actually just launched a new website, so I definitely encourage you to check it out. And thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was fun. I'm happy to serve and give back. Thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Thank you.